Hey everyone, how's it going? Five Finger Shuffle back here with another video. And today what I'm going to do is we're going to go over the new tier list. So I consulted a bunch of people when putting this together, um, basically from all levels of the game. Keep in mind that you may or may not agree with this. This is, again, it's mostly my input, but I did consult with a bunch of other people. Like if you guys are off, say you think somebody should be up one rank or down one rank, it doesn't really it's rather negligible. If you do think that people are off by 2 or 3 ranks, then feel free to let it post it down in the comment section below. I'm definitely open to feedback on this. What I want to do is I want to put this out every single month, as the game changes and how it changes and the meta changes. So just so you guys know, this is not from an early game perspective. This is going to be more of a late game perspective. So if you are an early game player, some of these units may not be ranked as highly, or some may be ranked higher for you, depending on where you are in the game. So keep that in mind as we go through it. And obviously, the nice thing about these kind of games is that everybody's playstyle is different. So my playstyle might not be the same as your playstyle, so maybe I rank certain units higher than others, or vice versa. That being said, I did try and take multiple viewpoints into account. There's a lot of units that I have ranked higher than I would personally have them, but that's just based on the other people's feedback. So let's start with the water units. Of course, at the top we got Dizzy. Dizzy, I guess we should start with the definition of Triple S. My definition of Triple S, you can see there's only 5 people in there, is that they do something that nobody else in the game can do. So they're irreplaceable, basically, in terms of how good they are at their job. They're best in slot, or they do something that nobody else in the game can do. So Dizzy is that unit. She's fills so many roles. You can use her in so many different teams in so many different aspects of the game. PvE, PvP. She, at least for the time being, is going to be top tier. She is still countered by immunity, but being a mage, you can put her on violin, and that will give you the strip as well. So she can just be an all-around great unit for you if you do want to build her. And the good news is she doesn't really need many Moligoras, if any. Mine still doesn't have any, actually. I really should invest in her skill 3, but I haven't yet. Moving on to the double S, again, really strong units. These are some of the best units in the game. There's just slightly a tier below the best units in the game. So first up is Sigrid. Sigrid, after her new buff, if you haven't tried her, can do insane damage. I put out a video on her. I think it's titled How OP is Sigrid, where she was doing 78,000 damage to the Wyvern boss. She can almost, if you set her up right, she could probably one-shot the Wyvern boss. She has some of the best damage in the game. She also has a auto proc from her skill 2 into her skill 1 with a bunch of debuffs as well. If you have her built, I hope you used her for this Kayron dungeon that's open, because she would be amazing there. Next up is Tywin. Tywin is the only 100% AoE defense break in the game, so he is currently the best AoE defense breaker in the game. He's not obviously he doesn't have it up as often as like a Bellina or a Seaside Bellina, but being the only one that's 100%, that puts him up in double S. He also has the benefit of being a tank, so he can be used in Wyvern. You can put Aureus on him. He can also be used, gear him really fast. He can be used as a booster, as he also has an attack buff and attack bar boost. He kind of does it all. He's OP, and I wish I had one. I have him on my baby account, and I use him all the time, but I unfortunately don't have him on my main. Next up is Crow. Crow is kind of a staple. He almost fits into the category of Triple S just because he does something that nobody else does, but I just don't think he's that useful. So yes, he does do something that nobody else does, but his uses are somewhat limited. He's mainly an OP Guild War champ and an OP Wyvern tank. For Guild War, both offense and defense. I really don't like him in Arena. I know a lot of people still like him and use him a lot. I just don't think he's really that good for Arena. He's kind of a just leave him until the end and then he can't kill you sort of unit because he doesn't do anything in the meantime besides his defense buff. And if you're just using him for the defense buff, then I think you could probably come up with something better. Next up is Lulu, and Lulu has gotten a couple of buffs now, which reminds me I should mention everything on this tier list is taking into account the upcoming buffs and the upcoming nerfs in the August 5th update. So they aren't currently in the game yet, but it is taking that into account. I didn't want to put out a tier list that didn't take that into account. So Lulu already got a huge buff, so she has a defense break on her skill 1, and she's now getting another one. People are already using her all over the place. I actually saw somebody in the Epic 7 Discord post a Kayron team that had Lulu in it where they hit 5.5 million damage, which is I think the biggest I've seen so far. But she was part of that team. She can do big damage. She has very reliable defense breaks. She kind of does it all. She's really, really strong now. Somebody that I didn't pull for at the time, and now I kind of wish I had, because she went from below average behind Dizzy to one of the best units in the game. Moving into the S rank, again, just because your unit is an S rank doesn't mean, and it looks like it's the third tier, quote unquote, that doesn't mean they're bad. These are still really, really, really strong units. Like, they're still S rank. They're still some of the best units in the game. But they kind of fall in the middle in terms of the Nat 5s go, but it doesn't mean they're at all bad. It still means they're in the top 20 units in the game. So first up is Seaside Bellina. Since she's come out, a lot of people are using her all over the place. Mola or an unmola, it doesn't matter. She's got a great defense break that procs all the time. If you run her in Wyvern, she defense breaks 3 out of every 4 turns. If you ran her in this Kayron boss, you notice that her target debuff is crazy strong. Same with Wyvern. It does make a huge difference in terms of your damage output. That combined with the defense break just makes her a fantastic support unit. And I can tell you that I have got fully one-shot with from a Bellin on arena defense, where I thought all I had to do was kill the Arbiter Vildred, and then I'd be fine. And then Seaside Bellina took a turn, and she one-shot my entire team. I was absolutely shocked. Next up is Luna. Luna, when she first came out, was probably higher on this list, but she's since dropped back a little bit since the buffs to all the other units. Her damage is good, but it's not reliable. Sometimes she does OP damage, and she's amazing, and other times her damage is lackluster, so that's why I've got her in that S rank. Next is Dian, who, again, used to be probably triple S on this list back in the day, but she's dropped back as well as other units have come out, and more counters to her have come out as well. She still fits in that S rank, though, because she does have an attack buff and a shield and a self-attack bar boost and a whole bunch of other stuff. So she's still very high on this list. She's still amazing. I guess a lot of people just don't use her as much anymore because they're kind of bored of her, but she's still an outstanding unit. And finally, in the S class for the water units is Sez, a fantastic cleave unit. If you just are trying to cleave arena or Guild War or anything like that, you pair him with Oxlots, and you can still wipe a ton of teams with him. He maybe used to be higher as well, but with the nerf to his artifact there, people just don't use him as often as they once did. Going down the A, B, and C ranks, we're going to rip through these a little faster. For A rank, you've got Kize and Chloe, both very, very useful in Wyvern. Some of the best Wyvern units there are, actually, in terms of nukers. They're still great units. They're just not quite up to the caliber of those top few. If you were wondering, Kize for Wyvern, people normally turn her skills off. But if you can pre-shield, you may as well leave her skills on. And Chloe now, actually, I debated putting her up in the S rank because if you get her new piece of gear with the defense break, she can be even better. I would probably put her up in the S rank if you have that piece of gear with the defense break. So +1 to her if you get that. If you get the one with the strip, I spent probably 10 arena flags trying to use the strip in arena, trying to see if I can make it work. So she would go like strip nail. The way it reads, once it's equipped, it says it's irresistible, which what they mean, it's only the nail is irresistible. So if you're wondering, the strip itself isn't irresistible as well. I wish it was, but that combined with the fact that nail doesn't do nearly as much bonus damage against PvP units as it does against the Wyvern boss, it's not really worth it. You're better off running either Shadow Rose or Kluri with the strip defense break, and you'll get more damage out of it than the strip nail. Next up is Yuna. Sadly, she just did get a buff, but I still don't think she's up to the caliber of the other units. Doesn't mean she's bad. She's still very useful, and especially with a speed buff and attack buff and the same skill, she can be fantastic, probably mainly in Guild War. But I don't think she really catches up to the others just yet. And of course, Xeno, the meme, is going to fall in at a C rank. He can be used. He's not completely unusable, but he's very niche, and not a lot of people are using him. So moving on to Fire. Fire is the least favored of the elements right now. There's just not a lot of use for Fire units ever since the Wyvern boss got changed once Wyvern 11 got introduced. There are still some great units in here, and we're going to run through them. Starting with Ken and Cecilia. Both of these units are super, super strong. Not quite triple S. Ken is probably one of the top 2 favored from select summons at the beginning of the game, as he's a great bruiser. He's also got a self speed buff, and he's got a defense break. Fantastic bruiser, hard to kill. Really good unit there. Same with Cecilia, same sort of idea, except she's an AoE bruiser with an AoE provoke and a defense break. Fantastic unit for arena defense and Guild War defense, and can be used as a tank on offense as well. And she's also really good for like raid and stuff like that if you want to use her there. And you can use Ken there as well, actually. And you can also use Ken anywhere through Wyvern 10 as well, going in if you're getting him early and running him through Wyvern. So both 2 of the strongest units in the game, really, really good. Next up is Tamarin. Gave her an S rank. I know a lot of people really, really love Tamarin. I think she's falling fast. There's just better units out there. I don't really like her in PvP at all. I think she's great in Hell Raid. The top right Hell Raid boss, she's still the favored unit. I think she's probably best in slot for that specific part of the game. She's also fantastic in Abyss. But once you're done Abyss, she really sort of falls out of favor. I really don't like her in PvP because she really just comes down to, do you have Izaria? And Izaria is what makes her good, but she's not really good on her own. And we'll talk about Izaria later. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of hate for that one. Feel free to voice your opinion down in the comment section below. Just try and keep it clean. Next up is Kayron. Kayron is a unit that I really don't like at all, but a lot of people love him, so I put him up at the S rank here. He's one of my least favorite units in the game in terms of his character art and his playability, but some people really love him. I see him a lot on arena defense, and that's what gives him that S rank, is everybody else's opinion and not mine. So really strong unit on defense because he's got that inability to be one-shot. His passive kicks in, and he gets that death prevent, and then he can proc his skill 3 multiple times. Can be a real pain if you don't bring the right team to counter him. Next up is Ball and Cezanne. So Ball just got a huge buff, and I think he was really good before. I was actually really tempted to move him up to double S, but being Fire, he's going to stay in the S rank. If he was any element other than Fire, I think he would be one of the top 10 units in the game for sure. His kit is incredible. He's got a slow, he's got a heal block, and he's got a defense break, all in the same skill, and it's got a relatively high chance to land as well. And he's got another AoE on his second skill that does damage based on debuff, so they combo really well together. And finally, if he kills with the second skill, it removes the cooldown from his third skill. If you have him built, he's fantastic for this Kayron dungeon that's open now. I definitely recommend using him. That's what I used for mine. But he is really, really strong now, and I definitely recommend building him. Now down to the A tier, again, these units are not bad. I actually really, really like some of these units. They just don't qualify as like the top in their class. Tenebria is up first. She's a fantastic AoE nuke. She's got her own defense break. She's got 2 nukes on top of it. I've been crushed by Tenebrias in Arena before when I was using Assassin Collie. I ended up killing somebody else, silenced the Tenebria. She skill 1 slept me. Then because she gives herself attack bar, she gave herself an extra turn, and then she AoE nuked me. Totally caught me off guard. And because of that, she's really strong, and I definitely recommend building her if you have her. The double AoE nukes is great, and she's a mage, so gives you a lot of artifact flexibility as well. Next up is Robbie, fantastic bruiser. She just got a buff as well. I think she would probably be higher on this list if it weren't for ML Robbie kind of taking over for that role. And that's kind of just drops Robbie down a little bit because she's not element neutral and she's fire. And ML Robbie is just better. Next up is Lidica. Lidica is getting a huge buff. It's not yet in the game, but she will have an AoE strip with her skill 2, which is really nice. I like the buff on her, and I think that is what keeps her at that A rank. I think when she first came out, she probably would have been an S rank, but then with the introduction of Dizzy in Arena, it kind of countered Lidica because people were bringing Lidica in because of her crazy base speed. They were bringing her in to reset Ruzids and Judiths, but then people started running their fastest unit as a Dizzy, or they started bringing immunity, and that kind of made Lidica fall out of favor, which is why, because she couldn't really do anything, which is why she got a buff. I don't think her buff is going to be enough to bring her back into the meta in terms of Arena, but it at least keeps her up in that A rank, and I still really like her. Her kit's a lot of fun, and you can use her in a lot of places, especially PvE. She's amazing. She can lock down almost anybody. I actually used her to beat Kayron on one of my Kayron runs in this dungeon, so you can definitely use her as well. And finally, the A rank, we got Araminta. Araminta is a fantastic AoE mage nuke again. If you want to run her as part of a cleave, you can put Ancient Book on her and use her as your attack buffer, and she'll work really well with some fluff damage on top of it. I don't think she's top tier in terms of nat 5s, but she's still a fantastic unit and can definitely be used in a lot of different places. And also she has a she's great in raids as well. I'm pretty sure she camps very well as well. And then in the final tier, we have Haste, Charlotte, Sirmia, and Saul. All these units have uses, and they're pretty decent, but they're just not top tier. And if you have some of the other stuff, there's just better stuff to build. Haste carried me early game, but he definitely falls off late game. There's really not a place for him. He's probably one of the worst nat 5s now. Charlotte, again, is a lot of fun. I really like her in PvP, and she's fun everywhere, but she's just not the best in her class. If you're looking for a bruiser, you'd probably use almost any other bruiser over her, even though she's really strong. Sirmia has OP single target damage. It's really, really good, but she just doesn't really have a place in the game yet. I think if they come out with like a world boss type thing where max damage matters, then she'll move up this list really, really fast. But until then, she's going to stay here. I haven't seen anybody really using her in the Kayron dungeon, but that could change. She could end up being a unit that people use there to get those really high scores. She doesn't require a lot of investment, though, and with very few places to use her, and her being very difficult to use, that's kind of why she's fallen down this list a little bit. But she's still usable if you need, like say in Guild War, you run into a wind team and you need a fire nuker. She's fantastic. And Saul kind of falls into that same category, except Saul is more of a PvP type unit. So if you're looking for a fire PvP unit, like if you desperately want to do giants, or sorry, golem, he would be fantastic there. And that's pretty much it. He's also like anywhere where, like say Abyss or something like that, you could use him. He's great early game, but late game he falls off dramatically. Moving into nature, we have our next triple S unit, which is Izaria. I've been saying this forever, but I think Izaria is possibly the best regular Nat 5 of the regular elements in the game when on manual. So on auto, she doesn't play very well, but anywhere where you're manualing, she's quite possibly the best in the game. For PvE and PvP, she's just incredible. And as better units come out in the game that have like these crazy OP skill 3s, she's going to become even stronger. So running her with, say, a Maid Chloe, you can put up double immunity. Running her with a Rule of Light, you can do the same thing. Say running her with an Arbiter Vildred, you can reset his passive, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And early game, I was running her with Angelica, so you constantly had heals available. And on my baby account, I was running her with Doris for the same reason. You can just do things over and over and over again with her, and she's got 2 defense breaks. She got a strip, a buff block, you name it, she does it. She's probably the best support in the game. Into the double S tier, we have Violet and Destina. Violet isn't one of my favorite units. I have put 0 molas into him. I know I should. But because evasion has become such a strong thing in this game, he just has to move up the list. He's kind of forced himself up there because he's on every arena defense and not every arena defense. I shouldn't say that. He's on a lot of arena defenses now because of the evasion, pairing with a Vildred and Fat Cat, and on almost every Guild War defense. Evasion is just so strong now because it's the one thing that you can't counter reliably. At least with Fat Cat and with a Vildred, you can bring Oath Key and counter it. But even with Oath Key, Violet can still revenge kill you. So there's something to be said for the fact that he does something that nobody else can do. Next up is Destina, and Destina, I think, is the best healer in the game now. Now that we have this new gear out and you can reduce her cooldown, or you can add the attack bar increase, I think she moves to the front of the line in terms of best healer. She was already very close beside Angelica and Tamarin. But I think Destina is now the preferred PvP healer in the game over everybody. There's nobody that really compares with her anymore. I guess some people would say Tamarin, but in terms of PvP, you need to bring somebody with her, so she's very conditional. I don't really count the 2 ML revives as healers. I know they're still Soul Weavers, but they're not really healers. You could say Angelica, but I think Destina just trumps her with the AoE cleanse and the reduced cooldown and the attack bar increase and heals on all 3 skills. She's just incredible. I'm really, really liking her. She's definitely deserves her double S rank. Moving into the S tier, we have Yufine. Yufine's getting a huge buff where she's going to do massively increased damage with her skill 2. And now her skill 3 is going to strip before it stuns. Before it tried to stun, and if there was immunity, it wouldn't get the stun. It would still strip it, but it would strip after the damage was inflicted. So say you were going against a C-Armin, you could strip the buffs, but you couldn't do any damage. Now it's going to be reversed, where she's going to strip first and then do her damage and stun. So that's going to make her really strong. Also, her damage has been increased, and her chance to silence with her skill 2 has been increased as well. And I believe her skill cooldown was reduced as well for her skill 2. They went crazy buffing her. Yufine is going to be really, really strong after this buff is put into place. Next is Lilibet. I actually want to put Lilibet higher on this list, but nobody would let me. I use Lilibet constantly in Arena and in Guild War. She's super, super strong against the current Revive meta. A Vildred, Ruel, and Judge Kize. Not Judge Kize, Maid Chloe. She's just crazy strong against it. And now she's getting a buff where her skill 2 is going to do 50% more damage. And it's just, she's going to be super, super strong now. And I think she was already strong. But adding damage to her skill 2 and making her skill 2 more viable is going to be amazing. Also, her skill 2 is now going to have a 50% attack bar boost, so she's going to be getting more turns as well, even if you ever built slow. So like if you Oxlots into her on her skill 3 the first turn, then her second and third turns will be very close together, which is nice. Which will also help reduce her cooldown on her skill 3. Then Charles. Charles is an interesting one. I know a lot of people really like Charles, and I think he's really good. He's got an amazing kit, and he counters a lot of the water units that have buffs that I think make him really good kind of mid-game. Late game, though, I feel like he falls off everywhere except for Guild War defense. But I still think he's very good. He's obviously I do. He's in the S tier. I think he's a fantastic unit. When he counters, he's OP. When he doesn't, he's not. Right? So he's kind of conditional in terms of his OP-ness. But he's still definitely a fantastic unit. If you have him, you should really build him. I use mine on a regular basis. Next is Bellina. I feel so bad putting Bellina in S rank. I feel like she should be better. I love that she can proc her defense break regularly. It's an AoE defense break as well. But I just don't use her very often. There's not a lot of places in the game for her anymore. She doesn't really get used in Arena. She doesn't get used in Guild War. She doesn't really get much play in dungeons. You can use her in A11. She is in my A11 team, but I feel like she's just not as useful as she should be, and I don't really know why. I just feel like she's fantastic in Abyss, and she's fantastic mid-game again. But once you get into late game, you just start using other things. Like I feel like there's better options, more reliable options once you get later on. Speaking of which, we got Vildred. Vildred is, I talked about Ken being one of the top units for your select summons. Vildred is the other one that I would say with him. If you're going to doing your select summons, it would be one of those two that you would prefer. He's a fantastic farmer. He farms very fast. And he also has a speed lead for Arena, or speed imprint, sorry. But other than that, he doesn't do the high-end optimal damage where you would run like a Oxlot's BBK or something like that, or an Oxlot Says. No, you don't see many people running Oxlot's Vildred. He doesn't have that high-end nuke power. He just gets a lot of turns, which can be really annoying, and with the speed imprint is crazy. If you don't have imprints for him, then he's not as good. I would say for Vildred, if you have him triple S, then you can +1 him to double S. But otherwise, I think he's an S. Now, down to A rank, we have, again, I feel like I'm going to get so much hate for both of these, actually. Basar and Baiken. Basar's getting a huge buff. I thought Basar was already good. I thought he was probably an A rank already. I think he's one of the few strips in the game, AoE strips that is, and I think just as is, he was great, and he's getting a buff, so I think he's even better. I still don't think he's going to be top tier, because it's hard to incorporate strips in this game the way things are set up right now, but I'm sure he's going to move up the list in the future. I can see him getting up into that S or double S range at some point soon. He's just not there yet. And Baiken can do huge damage. I've seen a Baiken one-shot my 24k HP Crow. You can one-shot Banshee with it. But again, she's easy to counter. And unless you're running a lot of Banshee, which I don't really recommend, then she doesn't really have much of a place. So she's a fun unit, but she's not. I wouldn't put her in like the top tier in terms of wind units or nature units. And speaking of not top tier, there's Ludwig. Ludwig does huge nuke damage if you set him up, but it's very niche and you do need to set him up, and he's not good anywhere except for PvP. So he falls into that B rank, and if you want to set him up and it's against the right team, he will nuke things. I know YDCB uses him a lot and loves his Ludwig, but he's just not top tier. That doesn't mean he's bad. He's just not top tier. There's better options out there. Alright, on to the MLs, and there's been a lot of changes in the MLs, so I don't want this video to get too long. I know it's already probably dragging on, but these are the important ones, right? We've got 3 of our 5 Triple S units here. So starting with Judge Kize. Everybody knows Judge Kize. If you don't have a Judge Kize now and you're doing an exchange, I know a lot of people are just saying, how can you not take her? She's the best cleave unit in the game right now, and if you have her, you're probably Legend Arena because she's just that strong. She can burn in from her skill 2 into her skill 3, double nuke. She can counter everything. She has a skill reset, so even if you don't kill it, they don't have their skills anymore anyway. She's crazy OP. As for Rule of Light, same idea. She's the best reviver in the game. She revives with full HP and invulnerability. Plus she has another strong heal as well. Rule of Light is a big part of the reason why it's a revive meta right now. Speaking of revive meta, we've got Maid Chloe, who just got a big buff as well. She now revives even if they didn't have the buff on them, the revive buff on them. So she's crazy strong now. I actually have her on my baby account. I'm really liking her. Definitely deserving of her probably top 10 spot in the game in terms of nat 5s. Crazy strong. She's also got a heal and a stun. I love Maid Chloe. She's a lot of fun, and she also happens to be really good. Unfortunately, with all of these units, they're all PvP. So if you're an early game player and you're looking for something for PvE, they're not really the best for PvE. There's like running in Angelica would probably be better for you. But that being said, if you have these units, love them, give them some good gear, skill them up. They will serve you for a long time. On to the S tier, we have poor Silverblade Araminta. She used to be OP, and now she's definitely not. I actually had her lower than this, but I think... So, I had her lower than this because of what she did is getting nerfed. That being said, despite the fact that what she did is getting nerfed, you could still put crazy gear on her, and she could be a great AoE nuke with a stun as well. So, if you change her gear, I think she can still be top tier. And she's element neutral, so I think we just have to reconsider the way we're using her. Instead of running her as like a low crit rate stun option with a lot of burns and control and getting multiple turns, she's going to be more of a nuker, which is fine. So I left her in that S rank, even though she is getting this nerf. Next is Specimen Says. People hate Specimen Says. I don't know why. I have Specimen Says on my baby account, and I love him. He plays so well. I feel like if they took his skill 2 and made it his skill 3, and they took his skill 3 and made it his skill 2, nobody would complain about him. Because they'd be like, wow, his AoE nuke is so strong. He's element neutral. All you have to do is Oxalot Says, and GG. He can one-shot most comps. But because his skills are reversed, everyone's like, oh, his skill 3 is weak and you need to set him up. That's true, but don't focus on his skill 3. Just use his skill 2 and kill everybody. I literally have been running a booster with Tywin, and then Tywin boosting Says, and just cleaving people in Arena. And it's been easy mode on my baby account. That being said, that's not Legend, but for Guild War and stuff, he's been crazy OP. He's super strong. And if you happen to have a stun with him, the damage he can do with his skill 3 is insane. Like, he can be top flight damage, and it doesn't go on cooldown if you kill somebody, so even better. Next up is ML Ball. ML Ball I would have had at double S, and now drop him down to triple S. Because of his nerf, he's only going to be able to strip one debuff now. With the longer cooldown as well. I think it was well deserved, and I think he's going to be balanced now. Still super strong on defense, because he's still going to be able to turn 1 sleep you. But other than that, he definitely drops down a rank. He's not as good as he used to be, but solid unit, and if I had one, I would definitely still use him, even despite the nerf. Alright, finally, last element, on to Dark. We have our final triple S unit in Fallen Cecilia. Fallen Cecilia is, especially now with Era and Ball both getting big nerfs, and Vildred, ML Cecilia is quite possibly the scariest arena defense champ in the game now, especially with, and C. Armin. Fallen Cecilia is the quintessential arena defense unit now. So she falls into Triple S. She's one of the hardest units to combat in all of Arena. So she is well deserving of her Triple S spot there. On offense as well, you can use her, and she can just protect your entire team with the skill prevent and the shield constantly. She's going to keep your team alive and make yourself very hard to kill. On to the Double S, another unit who I'm sure people are going to hate on me for is Ravi. Why is nobody liking Ravi? I don't understand. Like, she is one of the hardest units to kill in all of Arena or Guild War right now. I don't know if I beat an ML Ravi in Arena since she's come out. Like, I constantly lose to Ravi teams. She just, every turn, she kills somebody. Or if she doesn't kill somebody, she takes a huge chunk out of them. And you can't kill her because she's constantly healing and she's got 25k HP. She's crazy hard to deal with, especially if she's paired with a Fallen Cecilia. You have no chance of killing her. Ravi is OP. She's one of the best units in the game, especially after all these changes. She's definitely top 10 PvP defense units. Well, actually, if you want to talk PvP defense units, I'd say top 5 units in the game. Maybe even higher than that. So, if you have Ravi, show her some love. I wish I had one. I'm actually tempted. I was saving the rest of my Mystic bookmarks because I didn't really want her on my main since I have her on the baby account. But after seeing how strong she is, I might actually use them on that before it switches over. We'll have to see what's coming up next before I make up my mind. Next up on the list is ML Ken. ML Ken was definitely a Triple S unit before. He's still maybe a Triple S unit. He's kind of right on that border. He's crazy strong. You could say he's Triple S and nobody would argue with you. I put him down 1 just because I feel like the other 5 units in Triple S are just slightly better. ML Ken is, like, as long as you counter him, like, you have to bring a counter into him, right? But you can counter him. Whereas some of these other units, they're not as easy to counter. Or they do things that other units don't. So he doesn't quite fall into that description, but he's definitely in the top 10 units in the game. I would love an ML Ken, one of the best bruisers out there. And with his constant counterattacks just nuking your entire team, he's ridiculously strong. Next up is Vildred. Poor Vildred getting his nerf, his well-deserved nerf. I don't even understand how they thought buffing him to the extent they buffed him was a good idea. Everybody knew when they released those notes that buff was super over-the-top OP game-breaking, except for Smilegate. But thankfully they fixed it. I still think he's going to be OP. Keep in mind, he's going to be double S post-nerf. I think pre-nerf, he would have been like quadruple S. I would have made another category just for him. That's how strong he is currently. He just nukes entire teams no matter what. You can't kill him. You need a Lilibet, and even then, unless you're running Oath Key, his Dreamblade can proc, and you just don't die, or he doesn't die, and then he kills you anyway. It's ridiculously hard to kill him if you're not prepared for it. Now, at least without the attack buff, he won't be able to hopefully one-shot your entire team. Depending on the team, like, you'll be able to bring like an Aureus tank, and he won't be able to revenge kill you now. But if you have all squishy units, he's still going to revenge kill you. So don't think that he's going to be obsolete after this. I think he's still going to be one of the best arena defense units in the entire game. Potentially still top 5 as well. All right, down the last 2 units. Dark Corvus. He's somebody that you could say he's Triple S, or you could say he's lower. Kind of depends on your opinion of him. In terms of just putting him on your arena defense, I don't think he's Triple S. I think he fits better in this S rank or even A rank. But But then in the other aspect of it, in Guild War, he can be baited into being an automatic Guild War win, or in terms of like Automaton Tower, he can just be guaranteed wins there as well. You just have to be selective about how you use him, and he can be over the top OP, but you have to use him correctly. He's definitely niche, which is why he's not up higher on the list, but also he's not down lower. So he's still one of the top units in the game, and would definitely appreciate a Dark Corvus in my inventory. And finally, the final unit for today is Spectre Tenebria. I got Spectre Tenebria from my 10/10 summons, and she's just not very good. I put her up to A rank because I do think she has some decent utility in Guild War offense if you run her with Crow. That way everybody hits the Crow, and she can just stand there and hit people, and she can't be focused, which is nice because you can get everyone to focus your Crow, which is really nice. Also, I do think she has a lot of utility in this new Kayron dungeon that's out. One, because mages got a buff this week, and they will be getting a buff again in week 4, I believe. So those 2 weeks, the mage is going to be really strong, and you can run her, and there's going to be a lot of debuffs on the boss, so she can do huge damage there. So because they gave her another area where she's going to shine, that's why I moved her up. I had her at B rank actually, but I moved her up just purely because of the new dungeon. And there is one more unit down at the bottom here, Vivian. Vivian, I put question marks beside. I think what I'm going to do with these lists is whenever new units come out, I'm going to put them there because we haven't really got a chance to use her yet. She just came out. Nobody's got her skilled up yet. So until then, until we get a better read as to where she's going to fit on the list, we're going to keep her as a question mark. And then September's list, we will have her rated properly. So I hope you guys appreciate this video. It did take quite a while. I would love to hear you guys' feedback down below. Again, keep in mind, everybody plays the game differently. Just because my list is one way doesn't mean your list is going to be the same way. That being said, I would love to hear your feedback and see where you guys would change the list and which things you would move up, which things you would move down. Leave them down in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It does really help me out and lets me know you guys want to see more content like this and are looking forward to the next tier list. So again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you all next time. Bye, guys.